What if I told you Earth can have a second moon? And we might not even notice it for months. Right now, objects just a few meters across can slip into Earth's gravity, loop around us, and leave, like cosmic hitchhikers. And here's the mind bender. Some of these second moons never truly orbit Earth the normal way. Yet they can stay near us for years. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll know what the second moon myth gets wrong, what's actually real, and why 2026-era sky surveys keep making this rumor explode again. This defies what your intuition expects. If Earth had a second moon, you'd assume you'd see it every night. But the second moon story spread because of three impossible feeling truths. First, a second moon could be so small, car-sized or house-sized, that it's basically invisible without serious telescopes. Second, some objects orbit the sun but move in a way that, from Earth's perspective, makes them look like they're looping around us. Third, Earth can temporarily capture asteroids, real natural objects, then lose them again. So what's going on? Is the internet lying? Or is the universe weirder than one moon, end of story? Here's the normal science. Earth has one major natural satellite, the moon. But Earth also has a gravitational neighborhood called the Hill sphere. Think of it as Earth's bubble of influence, where our gravity can temporarily dominate over the sun's for small objects if the geometry and speeds line up just right. This is where things get strange, because not every moon-like object is a moon. There are three main imposters behind Earth's second moon, and they all behave differently. The first is a true teaser. Temporary captured objects, often nicknamed mini-moons. These are real asteroids that get snagged for a while, orbit Earth briefly, then escape. The second is the ultimate optical illusion, quasi-satellites. These objects orbit the sun, but their motion relative to Earth makes them look like they're looping around us, like they're following Earth, without being truly bound the way the moon is. The third is the long-term companion category, co-orbitals and Trojans, objects that share Earth's orbit near stable gravitational regions called Lagrange points. So when people say second moon, you have to ask, do they mean a real temporary capture, or an orbit illusion, or an Earth companion that doesn't orbit us at all? Subscribe if you like space myths getting dissected with real orbital mechanics, because what I'm about to do is show you the detective method astronomers use to spot whether a second moon claim is real, mistaken, or a misidentified piece of space junk. And the twist at the end explains why this myth will get louder in 2026 and beyond. Let's tell the story like detectives. In 2010, NASA's WISE mission helped identify 2010 TK7, the first confirmed Earth Trojan, an asteroid that shares Earth's orbit near a stable region of space. That triggered a wave of headlines that sounded like Earth has a second moon, even though it's not orbiting Earth like the moon does. It's sharing Earth's path around the sun. Then in 2020, astronomers confirmed 2020 CD3, a tiny asteroid that was temporarily captured by Earth, basically a real mini-moon for a short time. That one was the closest thing to a true second moon. It was genuinely bound to Earth for a bit, and then it left. And here's the cliffhanger. Those discoveries happened with the surveys we already had. As wide-field surveys ramp up and sky monitoring gets more continuous in the mid-2020s into the 2026 era, especially with next-generation survey capability, astronomers expect to spot more of these tiny temporary captures simply because we'll finally be looking often enough to catch them. That's why the second moon rumor keeps resurfacing. The underlying phenomenon is real, just not in the Hollywood way. Here's the main explanation. Earth doesn't have a permanent second moon, but it can have moon-like companions in three categories, and each one fuels the myth. Quasi-satellites orbit the sun, not Earth. From our perspective, they draw looping patterns near Earth, like a dancer circling you on a moving stage. The stage is the sun. The dance is orbital geometry. Trojans and other co-orbitals share Earth's orbit in stable arrangements. They're companions, not moons. They don't orbit Earth. They share Earth's journey around the sun, hanging out near gravitationally stable regions. And mini-moons, temporary captures, are the closest thing to what people imagine. Earth can grab a small asteroid for weeks or months, sometimes longer, before the sun's gravity and orbital chaos kick it back out. 2020 CD3 became famous because it was a real, temporary natural satellite, a tiny visitor that briefly became Earth's extra moon before continuing on its way. So the satisfying answer is, the myth is wrong. But it points at a real, fascinating truth. Earth can gain and lose tiny moons, and it can have moon-like companions that aren't moons. And that immediately raises a new question. If these objects are real, why do astronomers argue about them so much? Just when you think you've got it, here's the twist. Sometimes the second moon isn't natural at all. Some objects first spotted near Earth turn out to be space debris, old rocket stages, or mission hardware, because they can mimic asteroid-like orbits and brightness until you measure how they reflect sunlight. That's why astronomers demand long tracking arcs and follow-up observations before declaring anything a moon. The universe is messy, and our own leftovers are part of the mess. And there's another layer that keeps the myth alive. Earth may have dust concentrations near the L4 and L5 regions, sometimes called the Kordylewski clouds. They've been debated for decades, and modern observations suggest dust structures can exist there under the right conditions. Not moons, but if you want a viral headline, Earth has a second moon made of dust practically writes itself. So the internet wants a second moon. Reality offers something stranger: tiny, temporary captures, orbital illusions, co-orbital companions, and maybe even dust clouds, plus the constant risk of confusing a natural object with our own hardware. I genuinely want to know what you think. Which second moon explanation is the most mind-blowing? A. Temporary mini-moons that come and go. B. Quasi-satellites that only look like moons. C. Trojan companions sharing Earth's orbit. Comment A, B, or C. And if you've ever seen a second moon headline, tell me where you saw it. I'm reading the comments. And here's why this matters beyond myth-busting. Finding small, near-Earth objects isn't trivia. It feeds planetary defense, improves orbit prediction, and teaches us how gravity behaves in the real, messy solar system. It also matters for exploration. Mini-moons and co-orbitals can be tempting targets because they're relatively accessible compared to deep space asteroids. Better surveys mean more discoveries, and more discoveries mean more chances for science, and more chances for viral confusion. The hopeful part is we're entering an era where myths get corrected faster because the sky is being watched more continuously than ever. The second moon rumor will keep going viral, but our ability to verify or debunk it will also get faster. But this isn't the only space myth that comes from something real. Next, we'll break down Lagrange points, the weirdest Earth co-orbitals, and how astronomers can tell an asteroid from a rocket body using nothing but light. Subscribe so you don't miss that. Thanks for watching. Earth doesn't have a permanent second moon, but it absolutely has a second moon problem. Tiny visitors, orbital illusions, and cosmic neighbors that keep rewriting the headlines. Stay curious and see you in the next one.